is the gold standard. When she leaves here and goes to other markets, she'll see each one of them, maybe where they need the help. And I think when it's all said and done, she'll remember Minnesota's visit.
I'm going to ask you about the brawl or the fight. I don't know if brawl is the right word, but the fight and the suspensions that were a result of it. We do want to thank Shelley Boyen-Breen and Shelley Bean, the Sports Queen Sports Books. This came out, I think right after our last show, or I wasn't sure if we could talk about it yet, but I did want to talk about the fact that Shells, S-H-E-L-S, capital S, has signed up with Shelley Bean, the Sports Queen. A new licensing agreement will be brought to life through digital channels, a full sweepstakes campaign, and ongoing integration of Shelley Bean into the Shells games. So it's a really cool thing. It's just another sign that Shelley is doing great work and that this thing has legs. I mean, they're great kids' books already, but I think you're going to be seeing them go in a lot of different directions. I think you're going to see her business grow as we go forward. We appreciate the affiliation with her on this show. Shelley's a great person, a friend of mine, and a friend of Cheryl's, of course. And if you would like to get a deal on Shelley Bean, the Sports Queen Sports Books, go to ShelleyBeanTheSportsQueen.com. Use the promo code TalkNorth to get 20% off all books, merchandise, or fan club membership. Also, if you use Talk North at checkout, she'll autograph and mail out anything with that promo code personally. And she also is available for speaking engagements. She speaks at schools. I think she's the perfect person to show up and provide a little bit different look at the world than you might get from other speakers. ShelleyBeanTheSportsQueen.com/TalkNorth, and thanks again to Shelley. So what did you think of the fight and the aftermath?
Well, I was actually watching the game live when it occurred, and of course, we don't have great camera angles, so I didn't get to see initial. Of course, I saw the reaction. And Brittany Griner's reaction was pretty fierce. So you knew that something significant happened. I just didn't see it. Alicia Gray just hit a big three, and the game's kind of going back and forth. And then Brittany took exception to the contact that was made by Christina Nigwe. And so you saw Brittany's response, and Billy Smith, the referee, obviously stopped it from becoming a lot worse. So kudos to the reaction in that moment to kind of bottle up Brittany and kind of diffuse the situation. It took quite a bit. The benches were cleared, and there was maybe a couple other one other minor skirmish, I think, where Kayla Thornton went after Brittany. But other than that, I think the rest of the players kind of held in check. Despite obviously the tempers really flared at that point. It's unfortunate. It's not a look that you want for your league. At the same time, you don't want to over analyze it, because when men do this, it's not a huge deal. So I think it happened. It is what it is, and the league responded, and now we all move on.
It feels like to me, following WNBA Twitter, that there's more criticism of the officiating this year than I've ever seen before, and I'm wondering if you think that is that justified, or is that just a sign that more people are watching, and when fans get invested, as I know from covering all sports, they end up hating the refs.
Maybe a little bit of both, because like you said, you can't escape that. There's always complaints about officiating. I think the comments regarding the game made by Diana Taurasi, it's probably sentiments that we all share. That we think and this has been talked about, that the officiating has been a little different. It seems like there's been a lot more that's been let go in the paint. I don't know that, I've talked about that. I think that Sylvia Fowles accepts a lot of contact. There were times that I was concerned about, how frustrated that she would get. I don't think she's the type that would respond in the way that Brittany did. Doesn't make, Brittany's response wrong. It's just that, Syl has been quite frustrated, and she internalizes it. It does affect her play. And so these are all things that were expressed at different points in the season. And I don't think officiating necessarily caused the incident. The player, Christina Nigwe, caused the incident. We know what's legal and what's not legal. Cheap shots are not legal. I don't care how great officiating is or how poor officiating is. And so I don't know. I don't see a cause and effect. I do think the amount of frustration maybe that Brittany had that was a buildup of maybe things that, had not been called. And, maybe if it was a standalone incident, there wouldn't have been as big of a reaction. So I think officiating is taken quite a bit of criticism, and I think it's fair in this case. And we're under new leadership, and so anytime that happens, you go through that change, you go through some bumps in the road, and I think that's probably what we're seeing.
I'm going to ask you next who you think the Rookie of the Year in the WNBA is. I have no idea what you might answer, but I'm interested in your answer. I do want to thank Cara Quinn, Caraquinn. You can reach Cara at 612-203-7657 or at Cara at brickandbanister.com. It's Brick and Banister with one N. She's also on Facebook, Zillow, and Instagram. And as I've told you before, Cara is a Minneapolis resident who lived in Italy, fell in love with the architecture. Last time I reached out to her, she was in Italy again. She loves looking at beautiful houses. She loves selling and finding beautiful houses. So she's a great ally if you are in the market in either way. Cara Quinn, Cara at brickandbanister.com. We appreciate her supporting the podcast. It was good to meet her at the last live show we did. So who's the Rookie of the Year in this league, do you think?
Well, I think, it'd be a surprise for you to hear me say, I think Nafisa Collier is been the most productive rookie. I think we've got some good rookies. I think it's, I think there was some talk at one point that maybe this draft class, was sort of on the, weaker side. And I think it's kind of showing that, Collier went sixth, strong competitor for Rookie of the Year. Enrique Gumbawali went fifth. Mm-hmm. I think McCowan, has had a nice year. She went third. Jackie Young is coming on. That was a number one pick. And, I think unfortunately for Durr, who's number two pick, she's had some injuries. Same thing with Katie Lou, who was the fourth pick. So it's going to end up being a really good class. But I think as far as the best season and Rookie of the Year would be Nafisa Collier.
And I think she's the one who has probably played the more important role, who has the best all-around game. Enrique has had some big scoring games lately, but
big game last night.
Yeah.
We were rooting for her. So, That was just a really good win. I think she had 35 over a huge win over LA. So that was fun to see.
And you're the basketball expert, but it seems to me that Collier just has a great mentality about her, a great approach to the game.
She does. That's what I've enjoyed. She's the same every day. The consistency, her demeanor when she comes to work. She's happy to be there. She's interested in anything you're telling her. Very, very coachable. Makes adjustments immediately. And that, like Simone has talked about, that it's uncommon for a rookie to be able to adjust so quickly the way that she has. And obviously we've needed it. She's been, Karima Christmas Kelly was to be our starting small forward. That didn't work out, so Nafisa Collier gets to start. Then Damiris Dantas gets hurt, and Nafisa Collier has to move positions, and she just continues to shine.
I'm going to throw a different kind of question at you. It's kind of a topic I'm thinking about writing about, maybe by tomorrow's paper. I was at the Rio Olympics watching Simone Biles, and it was one of the most stunning things I've ever seen. The power, the grace, the launch. We talk about launching in baseball. There were times when I'm sitting in this upper deck, and she's getting up to like my eye height. And this is not with any outside. This is just her power. And then, I watched her this weekend or the other day, and she's, first person to do a triple-double. And my wife's daughter was a gymnast. She knows how unique and crazy that is. And I started thinking about it. When we think about the greatest athletes of all time, it's very easy to go to traditional sports and, of course, male sports. But I started thinking, in terms of passing the eye test, I'm not sure I've ever seen a more impressive athlete than her.
Yeah, I understand that completely. When you talk grace, athleticism is one thing, but combine that with grace, and I recognize it because I don't have it. That was the thing. Grace was not my thing, and so yeah. I'm with you in terms of. And just, the improvement, the growth that she's made, and, she was already talented, but this has just gone to this place of, it's absolutely incredible to watch. I can't wait for what lies ahead. But the gifts, the God-given ability of athleticism, combine that with a competitive fire, and just the most extreme grace that someone can have. That's Simone Biles. I mean, it's incredible.
Back to your team a little bit. You had really strong bench performance the other night. Was that just circumstance, or do you think your team's getting better in that department?
Well, I mean, I think we have good players on the bench. We have, obviously Stephanie Talbot is capable of scoring. She's not, for whatever reason, there are times when she's going to be forgotten about on the floor. And when you leave her alone, her ability to shoot the three. But Steph is so much more than that for us. Talbot is somebody that has grown defensively. She plays our schemes much better than she did in the beginning. So I think she's gotten really comfortable. She understands that her light is very green. We get upset when she turns down shots. And so I think she's just kind of gotten to this place of she knows exactly what's wanted from her. And I think, the early parts of the season, obviously maybe not quite there. And so I think that's what you're seeing with Steph, been a starter. So I think her confidence is probably the highest that it's been, for our team. Danielle coming off the bench, I think, is also a big reason why you see a little more scoring. I think Lexi is, as we know, has kind of had stretches. But I thought it was a really good game for her in New York. The way she approached it, her shoot around was good. I had a sense, you don't know exactly how it's going to go in the game, but she had a nice bounce to what she was doing. And Temi Fagbenley has the ability to score. So this is a good, a good bench that can hurt you if you don't pay attention. And obviously they were, to the tune of 47 points in the last game.
Let's have Cheryl wrap up the show with a final thought on anything she'd like to bring up. I do want to thank, again, Lori Ramsey from SuccessfulMarketingGroup.com, SuccessfulMarketingGroup.com/Cheryl Reeve. Shelley being the sports queen, sports books. Go to ShelleyBeingTheSportsQueen.com and enter Talk North for all the benefits that will give you. And Cara Quinn, CaraQuinn, Cara at brickandbanister.com. Check her out. Reach out to her if you have any questions about the real estate market on either side. Final thought, Cheryl?
Well, I guess I had two, and I'm trying to pick which one.
You can go both.
Both. Well, another half-hour show or longer.
Well, we can save topics,
well,
too.
two things. I don't tweet a whole lot during the season because I'm really pretty laser-focused on what I'm doing. But every once in a while, I have maybe an extra long flight, and I peek at what's going on. And so there were a couple of things that caught my eye, and one of them was the Atlanta United coach spouting off about.
You know what? I meant to ask you about that. I'm glad you brought this up.
Okay, so thank good.
Yeah.
So that he, essentially paraphrasing is that he thinks it's ridiculous, the notion of equal pay for maybe specifically in the sport, but he was since clarifying his comments, but it didn't really need much clarification. He said what he said, and essentially what he's saying is that men's sports, in his case, maybe men's soccer, brings in more revenue than women's sports. And the difficulty in this is that narrative continues to get spewed over and over and over again. And we have to think about why. What is the why of why men's sports are able to bring in more revenue? And so, I kind of, put together a quick reply on that. Let's think about men's sports for a second. Here's the epitome of, or here's the essence of men's sports. You get 97% of the media coverage. You get taxpayer dollars to build you stadiums. You get 97% or more of the sponsorship opportunities. You get 100% of the marketing. And so you are given everything. And so then the comparison is to women's sports. Women's sports gets 3% of the media coverage, maybe 3% of sponsorship opportunities, spotty marketing. And we don't get taxpayer dollars to build us shiny new stadiums. And so one of his comments was, it's not the same. Right. It's not the same.
Right.
So let's look at it for what it is. You are given everything, so you have the opportunity to earn more revenue. And so how about if we are open our eyes to that idea that if we invest in the same ways that we invest in men's sports, that the opportunity for revenue and growth would exist for women's sports. So it's the reason for it. Men talk about men's sports like it's like their God-given right. You just came first. Men's sports just came first. And women's sports are now, obviously are on the scene, and we're not treating them the same. And so I could go on and on about that, but that was certainly on my mind.
Well, I'm something of a sports historian, and baseball was not much to look at when it started out. They did not have fences. They didn't draw, and it was really newspapers that popularized the sport. Newspapers adopted baseball and said this would be really cool. Let's cover it seriously. And at that time, and it sounds very old school to talk about, but you have to understand newspapers were the dominant media force in the world back then.
And who were the leaders in those papers?